What is going on, bitches? We are almost done the VNL. We have like 2 more days left of VNL for 2026. And part of me is sad and part of me is also a little glad. It's been a long 2 months. 2 months is way too long for this VNL to run, right? We're almost in August. August starts tomorrow. But regardless, the quarterfinals for the men are done. The semifinals are coming up. I'm going to break down the 4 quarterfinals. I'm going to get you ready for the semifinals. And I won't lie, a little underwhelmed from the semifinals. I thought we were going to have bangers across the board. It's not that they were bad. I thought we had some decent matches, but there was just nothing that really popped out to me like, wow, that was impressive. Not like on the women's side. Here is what the bracket looks like now. Japan took down China. The US took down Italy. Poland took down Ukraine, and Slovenia took down Turkey. I will say a little interesting the fact that the semifinal opponents had to play on different days, right? So really advantage goes to Slovenia and Japan because they had an entire day more to rest. And once again, volleyball, not like FIFA. FIFA, you need to wait at least 5 days between playing matches. Volleyball, sometimes we don't even wait 24 hours, right? Don't worry. We're all about player safety here at the FIVB and volleyball world. So definitely a little bit of advantage in favor of Slovenia and Japan. Cue the conspiracy theorists to go off about it. But that's as far as I'm going to say. Looking at these results, Slovenia and Turkey, it was a 3-dong, but it was the longest 3-dong you will ever see. 25-21, 35-33, 39-37. I don't think I have ever seen consecutive sets like that go well into the 30s. Japan had a bit of a scare at the beginning against China, came back, won it pretty easily. Then the US, this one was probably the most surprising of the results, just the way the US handled Italy, especially from the baseline. I mean, we'll talk about that. And then finally, we have Poland taking down Ukraine 3-1 in a match they pretty much just dominated from the start. So starting things off with the Slovenia against Turkey match, I mean, there was really not that much that separated these two teams, truly. As I predicted, Turkey was a little bit better in the block and serve. Slovenia was a little bit better in attack. The big question mark to me is this game was pretty close, right? This game was pretty close. Turkey made 10 more errors than Slovenia. 10 more errors and only had +3, or I guess +4, in block and serve. So I'm just wondering how that math really breaks down. But it was a huge match for Mozic. In my opinion, it was his best match I have seen from him in a long time. And also a little bit of caveat when I talk about this match. This match happened at 3 a.m. my time. I did not wake up for it. I did, however, watch it back afterwards, but it was while I was doing other things. So I wasn't like keyed in on it. So if I missed some details, forgive me, okay? But to me, Mozic was incredible. He carried Slovenia through this one. I mean, he had 25, Mujanovic had 20, but he was also targeted 34 times in serve receive. He passed 45% of the receptions for Slovenia in this match, and he was outstanding. He still hit 25-43, hitting a 57% for it with a 41% efficiency. It was just really damn good from Mozic. He put the team on his back. Mujanovic was okay. Okay is at best. You know, if Tonček Stern was there, he definitely would have been pulled. He was 15 for 41, also got blocked 9 times. Turkey had 14 blocks in this match. 9 of them were on Nikola Mujanovic, but that's how you go sometimes. That's how she goes. And at the end of the day, it was the win for Slovenia. And on the other side for Turkey, it was all Aris Lugumja. He had 21 points in this one. He was 20 for 43. You had Efe Bayram, who scored 10. Mirza Lugumja, who was in there, who started all 3 sets, was 4 for 14, only 4 points in this one. And I mean, Efe Bayram was the same deal. He did have 10 points, but he was 5 for 15 with 5 blocks. So I was really questioning Slobodan Kovac, and I mean, I also knew the results as I was watching it, but why didn't they bring in Gökçen Yüksel earlier? He came in off the bench earlier in the 3rd set, and he scored 10 points. He scored as many points as Bayram. He was 7 for 12, hitting a 57% and with a 50% efficiency, also got 3 blocks. His passing was pretty good as well, too, 56% positive, 14% perfect. And it's like, I guess Yeni Pazar was using the middles a little bit. Tumor was 8 for 17 with 3 blocks. Bediran Bulbul was 6 for 12 with 3 blocks, but it was just a little of a head scratcher for me. It was clear as I was watching it that Turkey needed a little bit of secondary scoring. They needed a little bit of help on the left side. I don't know why Slobodan Kovac didn't bring Gökçen Yüksel in earlier into this match. And I mean, I've seen some of our Turkish fans have some issues with his lack of substitutions throughout this tournament, and this has to be one of them for me. You got to bring in someone else to score the ball. That's just plain and simple. Especially when your two outsides are going a combined 9 for 29, right? Baraktar was 5 for 15. Lugumjo was 4 for 14. You got to change it up somehow. And they weren't passing that much better than Gökçen did when he came out. So a little bit questionable, but I do think at the end of the day, Slovenia's just experience came through on this one. While it was just Mozic and somewhat of Mujanovic scoring the points, 9 attacking errors on top of the 16 serve errors for Turkey, only 5 attacking errors and 13 serving errors for Slovenia. To me, that was really the difference. It really was. Also 52 digs instead of just 42 for Turkey. They just played a little bit more of a patient game, and that's what you get with a team who is much more experienced and has been to this point now. This is their 4th time in the semifinals. In the VNL. Pretty impressive. Next up, we have Japan against China. And now my predictions for this VNL finals have been horrid. Absolutely terrible. This is the one that I got right. I said that it was going to be 3-1. And if it was going to be 3-1, it was going to be because Heinen game planned the shit out of the match. And that's exactly what it was. China came flying out of the gate. They were serving tough and they were passing well. And to me, China played their game plan in the first set. In the first set alone, China's middles scored 10 combined points, right? 6 for Zhang, 4 for Li Yuzhen. And they kind of went away from that afterwards. It was really just like mind-boggling. And I know the reception wasn't there in the second. They only passed 11% perfect instead of the 20% perfect that they passed in the first set. But still, they went from giving so much volume to the middle to giving pretty much none, right? The middles went from scoring 10 points in the first to just 4 in the second, 4 in the third, and they tried to go back to the middle a little bit with running Lee in the fourth. That's why we saw China kind of push back. That was really the only area of the court that they were able to compete with Japan. But ultimately on this one, like Japan's quality just came through. And I mean, even in that first set, like at one point it was like 11-7, 12-7 for China, and then Japan just started inching back. It was close in the second, wasn't close at all in the third. And Japan, once again, led by the golden boy, I think he at this point has been the undeniable MVP of this VNL. 21 points, passing 75% positive, 17% perfect, hitting 17 for 29 with a 51% efficiency. Also made 7 digs in the match. And Ran Takahashi was incredible for Japan. And it just seems like every single time their team isn't really on the same page and they're not really playing at the same level, Ran is able to reach into his bag, pull something out, and really push his team forward, and they make another semifinal. Really not much to say other than that about this one. Japan dominated in attack. They dominated the block. It was pretty even in the serve. They were better defensively. Like, Japan is just a better team. Heinen was pretty happy throughout this match too. Whenever they were interviewing him, he was pretty happy with the way his team played. And China did not look as terrible as I would have expected. But I'm seeing a lot of people out there just being like, oh, Japan choked. Like, y'all need to figure it out sometimes. This is sport. It's never going to be perfect. This isn't a video game, right? You don't just match up their stats one against the other and then run the math. You got to play it out. And China was really good tactically. They were really good tactically. 10 block touches on the block, I guess 14 there as well for Japan. But I thought China, especially in the early goings of the game, really made things tough for Japan, and then Japan's quality just really took over. It really did. Next up, Italy against USA. And this is one that really, really surprised me. These two teams went to 5 in Ottawa in week 1. However, Italy was rocking a much different lineup. They didn't have Gianelli. They didn't have Romano. They didn't have Lavia, although that probably made things better for Italy at the time. And I didn't think, the U.S. has been so good from the baseline throughout this VNL. I did not think, based off of everything I know about Italian volleyball and how quality they are in reception and how technical they are, I did not think they were going to be able to bully Italy from the baseline. But you see right here, 14 14 aces. 14 aces was just incredible by the United States. They were outstanding from the baseline, and it started right from the get-go. Like, I think they had an ace, second point of the match, and it really comes down to the star for the USA in this VNL, Jake Haynes. He was incredible. 6 aces, only 4 errors. You see this ace to error ratio here for the US, 14 and 14, just incredible. They were so damn good from the baseline. They are getting aces up and down the lineup. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Micah who got their first ace of the match. Like, the second point of the match, he had 2 aces. As I said, Haynes had 6, Champlin had 2, Averill had 1, and Matt Anderson had 3. They were just dominating from the baseline. And now there was a lot of talk around this game and around the USA roster that Karch went with Ethan Champlin instead of TJ DeFalco alongside Matt Anderson. And I think that was 100% the right move to make. No doubt about it. I thought Champ was really good in serve receive. He did start getting ace, and that's really where the pressure went in the third set when Italy started getting back into the match. But I thought Champlin was super solid in serve receive. He was pretty good defensively. And I absolutely loved the fastball to the outside Micah was running with Champ. It was so fast. And like, this is in transition as well. On transition balls, on dug balls, Micah was coming off the net, kind of middle of the court, and just dishing fast loop balls out to the outsides, right? Cresting at the top of the antenna, Champ's hitting at like the third red, and just absolutely crushing it. And I do think that speed of the game is what the U.S., like, their offense looked significantly different from this game that we saw, especially later on in the VNL. They were running it really fast to the left, and allowing that high ball to go to the right side to Jake Haynes. And I mean, there was times their pipe was running on the heels of the middle. They were right behind the middles, whether it was Anderson or Champlin, and they were jumping, if not at the same time as the middle blocker, right behind the middle blocker. And hell, the end of the second set, they finished it with a play that was out of a high school playbook. You had the pipe coming up the middle, the middle running the 31, and the outside attacker on the outside. All 3 of them were in the air at the same time, waiting for Micah to just dish it. It was so fast and so incredible. Their offense was so much fun to watch in this one. And ultimately, it paid off, right? They hit 53% with a 43% efficiency as a team, and the U.S. looked really good. There's no way to go about it. They didn't pass the greatest. Of course, it was better earlier on the match, and it kind of tapered off as Italy was trying to get back into the match. But the way they dominated from the baseline was chef's kiss. So damn good. Up and down the lineup, they were just so good. The way Micah spread that offense, I mean, 22 attempts for Haynes. He almost had a landy line, right? He had 21 points and on 22 attempts, which would have been insane. Anderson, almost the same thing too, right? 15 points on 18 attempts. Champlin, 10 points on 19 attempts. Just spreading that offense like peanut butter, crust to crust. You love to see it. And on the Italy side of things, I will note that other than their serve receive being abysmal, like, when do you ever see an Italian team pass 27% positive and 8% perfect? Other than their serve receive being abysmal, they were actually pretty good. And that's what we saw from their assistant coach Mioni talking about in between the second and third set, is that when the ball was in play, they were doing pretty good. And offensively, they were actually better than the United States, hitting at 56% with a 49% efficiency. But it really all came down to them not being able to pass the ball. And Karch even said it in the second set. We're going after 15. We're going after Lavia. And that they did. They really exposed Daniele Lavia. This conversation around Daniele Lavia is getting very interesting because the rehab has gone on for some time now. He's been back since about March, and he really hasn't really come back into form. And if you ask me, Romano and Bottolo were the best 2 Italian players by far. The middle blockers were kind of there, but they weren't really there in like the blocking sense, just more so in attacking, like Sanguinetti and Pardo Matti, though, on the other hand, like, dude, 19 years old and balling this way. He has such a strong shoulder. I'm excited to see more from him. But Romano was outstanding. He was 15 for 23. He hit a 65% with a 60% efficiency. He was so damn good. He was almost automatic. Bottolo was fantastic as well. He was hands down the best serve receiver for Italy as well. passing 43% positive and 14% perfect. Also went 13 for 20 with a 55% efficiency. But like, it was very clear that Lavia was not up to snuff. And then you brought in Luca Porro. Luca Porro just wasn't engaged. He really wasn't. Like right off the bat, and Karch even said, we went at 15, we went at Lavia, we got him subbed off, and now we're going after 17, and we like that option too. I was a little surprised by that because in my view, Luca Porro is a very good serve receiver, but he was not on this day. And it's just clear that he came in cold and couldn't really find that rhythm. But Italy did kind of find that rhythm in the third set. And I mean, the U.S. had to take timeouts earlier, and you're hearing Javier Weber like, we need more bomba, we need more bomba, we need more bomba, talking about the U.S.'s serve because it wasn't quite there. And I mean, there was a point in the third set on the watch along where I was like, guys, if there was a time to bet for Italy and get maximum return from it, it is now. Right? Because the U.S. is probably still up there in terms of the betting odds because they were leading 2-0, but Italy was starting to look good. At one point, Italy was up 15-10. 15-10, and then Jake Haynes happened. Jake Haynes went back and was serving bombs. Hell, he was serving bombs and aces coming out of a timeout, and it went from 15-10 Italy, 16-15 to the U.S., and they just never looked back. They just never looked back. The U.S. looked supremely confident, and they changed the match like that. Like, it looked like the tides were turning, and Italy was going to start to push back, and I was thinking in my head, I mean, I've seen a lot of reverse sweeps this year, not in my favor. And I was just like, this is kind of looking like Italy's going to come back. This is kind of looking like Italy's coming back. Instead, Italy was looking like Canada's opponent, and they ended up looking like Canada, right? No other way to say it. The U.S. was just so damn good. The way they were able to recenter themselves, get back on that serving game, the speed they were running with that offense, the way Haynes was playing as well too. 13 for 22, hitting a 40% efficiency, 2 blocks, 6 aces, 7 digs. That's right. Big Jake Haynes led the U.S. in defense, led the U.S. in digs. There was people in the chat being like, I don't know, is Haynes the MVP? What game were you watching? Truly, what game were you watching? Jake Haynes was outstanding. The U.S. was outstanding. The most surprising result, not in the fact the U.S. win, just how they did it, how dominant they looked, and how when Italy pushed back, they kind of staggered back, threw that one last haymaker, and it was done. All right, now moving next to Poland and Ukraine. And this one was another, I'm going to say, arguably the most disappointing match, right? Even though Turkey-Slovenia was a 3-dong, like you had some fireworks in this one, like Poland dominated from the get-go. Like they were up quite a bit in that first set. Ukraine started to crawl a little back. The only reason Poland at the end of the day, the reception ended 53% positive with a 15% perfect. The only reason it's that far low is because it was 30% positive and 5% perfect in the second set. But if we look at the receive in the third, 53 and 27, we look at the receive in the fourth, 73 and 7. And with Poland's attackers, 73% positive is all you need because they can just go high ball to the outside. And they can just go high ball to the outside. Bart Bovanj was exceptional in this match. You'll see here in the fourth set, 10 points. At that point, he was cooking. He had 24 points in this one. He was 19 for 29, hitting a 66% with a 55% efficiency. He also had 5 blocks in the match, and Poland was just really, really good offensively. They really, really were very good offensively. Like Leon and Fornal. That might have been one of the best, like the best I've seen Leon and Fornal work together. Fornal actually negative 5% efficiency. I really didn't see that. But when you're passing 64 and 28, they're probably going to keep you out there. And I like seeing that Fornal, because Fornal can be a P1 type of guy. He can carry your offense. He can do all of these things. But I like seeing him embrace that kind of P2 role. Also, side note, some people in the chat be like, oh, I hate Fornal's antics. Shut up. He's not like talking overly shit. He like looks through the net a little bit. Fornal's one of the best players in the world. He's allowed to do that. Why is volleyball so soft? It really pisses me off. Why is volleyball so soft? But that's not why we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Poland and Ukraine. And on the Ukrainian side of things, I was disappointed. Because their stars did not show up to play. Plotnitsky, only 8 points. He was 7 for 22 with a 13% efficiency. Yuri Semeniuk, 7 for 15 with a 20% efficiency, right? Semeniuk leading Ukraine in offensive errors. He made 3 attack errors in this one that was so surprising to me. Like, Ukraine just seemed to have no juice. Like, I thought Yanchuk was their best player. Tupci came off the bench and brought a lot of juice. They started with the young kid in Tonkono. That really didn't work out. He wasn't really looking all that great early on. He did come and look in a little bit better later on. But Ukraine, other than being good from the baseline in the second set, they really didn't show much of what they showed all throughout this tournament. And I do think their gameplay is a little bit limited. It was really exposed by Poland in this one. And especially, like, you got to have Plotnitsky going. You got to have Plotnitsky going. He's got to be your star. And Semeniuk needs to be, like, when they're going to him in big situations and he's spraying the ball wide, you can't have it. You just can't have it. Ukraine just did not look good in this match. Arguably probably the worst showing of all the teams. I know Italy didn't win a set, but I just thought Ukraine didn't have it. Like, towards the end of that match, as we were doing the watch along, we were just talking about completely different things because, you could tell that Gerbic wasn't too happy with his team's performance in the second set after they did that interview with him on the sideline. It was just all Poland. Just all Poland. Leon was bombing balls. 8 missed serves, though, not great. 2-8, ace to error ratio, not fantastic. But I did think Bovand was outstanding. We saw Schlifka come in. We saw Semenia come in. We saw Shalpuk come in. He hit a C ball and crushed it out at 1.2. Overall, really good win. Really good win for Poland. I think they're looking really, really good right now. All right, now to preview the semifinals, looking at the 2 matchups we have. Early match, Poland against Slovenia. Banger. Rivalry matchups. On the other match, Japan against USA. Banger. Volleyball world wet dream. First and foremost, when looking at the Poland against Slovenia matchup, this is 2 teams who have a long, storied history. Now, let's get into it. Earlier this year, week 1, Slovenia beats Poland in 5. Both teams have kind of a younger lineup, mostly Poland, though. Like, they didn't have Leon, they didn't have Komenda, they didn't have Bovand. Like, it was a very young lineup for Poland. Good win overall for Slovenia. However, this history between these 2 teams goes back further, and it's not necessarily a VNL history. I think when you're looking at the past 10 matchups between these 2 teams head-to-head in meaningful matchups, not like Hubert Wagner Memorial or any like friendlies or anything like that, I do believe it's 7-3 in favor for Poland. However, there was a time. Now, Slovenia has 4 medals at the past 5 European championships. 4 medals at the past 5 European championships. 3 of those medals are silvers. All 3 of those silver medals, they beat Poland to get there on the way. And in fact, Slovenia had a run of 4 years in a row, 4 editions in a row, 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2021, ending Poland's run at the European Championships. Now, however, Poland has squashed that curse back in 2023. They beat Slovenia in the semifinal match. They finally went on to win their first gold since 2009. But you can see that, the history is there. These are 2 teams who know each other very, very well. However, I will say, I think the advantage has to go to Poland right now. I really do. They're playing some stellar volleyball. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that, what's Poland's record? They have not lost a game since probably week 1, right? Yeah, they haven't lost a game since week 1 against Japan. They've only lost games to 2 teams left in this tournament. But, at the end, they haven't gone to 3 since partway through week 2. And they have won full points from all of their matches since then. Like, Poland is a team who is rolling right now, and they look really, really good. I think Slovenia is going to be in a tough spot because they don't have their depth. They do not have their depth to be able to maybe change some things around. They really have to rely on Mozic and Mujanovic and Earnout and Stalakar and so on and so forth. Whereas Poland, not only are they looking good, but they've still got many options to be able to go to. This is the deepest team in the world. No doubt about it. So I think Slovenia is really in tough. I think it's going to be a very tough day for Mozic. I think it's going to be a tough day for Mujanovic. You're going to need to see Mozic do as good. We're going to need a repeat performance from Rock Mozic. We really need to see Mujanovic be more efficient. He cannot be out there getting blocked 9 times. And it's going to be tough. I think, especially without Yannick Kovacic for Slovenia, I think it's going to be a tough spot for that team because Poland is really going to pressure on them from the serve. Now, Slovenia is used to playing high balls to the outside, so that's not going to change. But Poland is, while statistically they haven't been a fantastic blocking team throughout this VNL, they are still a very good blocking team. Bovanj is going to have a big day with probably Mozic in front of him. They're probably going to want to get Leon in front of Mujanovic as well too, but it's not like Fornal is a terrible blocker, or if you want to bring in Semeniuk as well. Because of how Fornal played in the quarterfinals, I wouldn't be surprised if they went to a Slivka or a Semeniuk a little bit quicker, right? Maybe a Semeniuk, a guy who can still pass up to the same level as a Fornal. And maybe he's not going to go out there and score a ton of points, but maybe he can be a little bit more efficient than Fornal was. But ultimately, I'm calling this one 3-1 for Poland. I think they just have too much for Slovenia right now, and Slovenia just doesn't have that depth to be able to go to at the moment, and they're just going to be overwhelmed by Poland's talent. And on the other side, as I mentioned, volleyball world's wet dream, you have Japan against the USA. I'm sure the numbers on VBTV are going to be absolutely massive this one. I won't lie, I'm excited. I'm pretty sure the watch along is going to be popping off. And, you know, when you look at the head-to-head between these two teams, Japan has actually done a pretty good job against the US. Of course, they won the game back in Orléans in week 2, 3-2, a banger of a 5-setter. They beat the US last year in the VNL. USA beat Japan at the Olympics games. Japan beat them in the VNL before that. Like, it is a bit of a back and forth affair between these two teams, especially recently. Before is another thing. But post-COVID Japan, pre-COVID Japan, two very different things. That's what fans need to realize. Japan being amongst the best teams in the world, kind of a new development. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff. Japan, they have not lost. They have not lost a game since last year at the World Championships against Canada. RIP. We're not going to talk about what once was and what is now, but I do think Japan is in for a tough one here, and I don't think their undefeated streak is going to continue. I am picking the US in this one. I am, for a few reasons. First and foremost, I say it a lot, just like USA against Italy. It is very, very tough to beat a team twice in one tournament. When there's two teams who are pretty much even or more or less even, it is very tough to beat the same team twice in one tournament, just because, you know, you're always going to game plan. You're always going to game plan and change some things up, right? So I do think the US has the advantage right now. Not to mention, I think when you're just looking at the quarterfinals, the Americans looked a lot better against Italy than Japan looks against China. I don't think there's any debating that whatsoever. This game is going to come down to serve, receive, because, and it's mostly on the Japan side of things, in my opinion. If Japan is not in system and not able to run their lightning fast offense everywhere, they're going to have a hard time against this American block. They really are. Like, they have good blockers up and down the lineup. They're really strong in the middle, even though the middles aren't necessarily scoring as much. Like, whether you've got Averill, McHenry, or Jendrik, all of those guys close blocks really, really quickly, and they're going to cause some problems for this Japanese team. So Japan needs to be on their serve receive game. And on the flip side, they need to be putting pressure on the US, because we saw how fast the US was running it to the left side. And like, we know Haynes is going to score. Haynes is just going to be able to go OT. And he kind of lost some juice over the course of that 5-setter in Orléans. But remember, it was like 40 degrees in that gym. No AC in Orléans, right? Some countries get away with murder when it comes to hosting VNL. Not other countries. Not gonna point any fingers at all. But like, I think like Jake Haynes is probably going to be too much for Japan. It's going to be all about trying to limit the Americans' options. And the only way to do that, especially with the way that Micah has been absolutely cooking like Chef Curry with the pot boy, like, you got to get him off the net. You got to get him off the net. And I just don't know if I see it right now from this Japanese team. They need to have a massive game from their big three. Their big three, Ishikawa needs to be better. He needs to be a lot better. We've seen glimpses of it so far throughout this VNL, but it hasn't really come quite yet. Ishikawa needs to be better, no doubt about it. Whether it's Nishida or Miyaura, I know Nishida got the start against China. I would expect for him to get the start once again, but you know, I guess we'll see. All of those guys need to be in the double digits with high efficiency. It cannot be the Rand show. It cannot. I mean, we saw how the US, like, first time Rand got subbed out in this VNL was against the Americans in Orléans, right? Because he didn't really show up with the best game because the US was putting a lot of pressure on him. Now, I don't expect, it's a lot to ask from the US to have a similar serving performance to the one they did yesterday morning. No doubt about that. But I do think that they are going to still be very good from the baseline. They're going to put a lot of pressure on the Japanese outsides. They're going to put a lot of pressure on, I'm almost going to assume Ishikawa. I'm going to assume they're going to go after Ishikawa. They're going to let Ran get his, go after Ishikawa, key in on Ran on the block. So I am calling the US in this one. I think they're going to be able to take it 3-1. I really do. And for everyone asking, I think Champlin's going to start again. I think he has to. I think Champlin has done such a good job of working his way into the lineup. Like if I was to make a bet right now, I would bet that Champlin would be on the roster for 2028 in LA, barring an injury. I really would. I think he has been really good, and I think his serve receive is going to be so important for the US in this match. So there you have it. That's my predictions. I think it's going to be a US-Poland final, and I think that one will be a banger. Once again, very difficult to beat the same team twice in one tournament. They will be playing off once again. It won't be a home game on American soil for Poland like it was in Chicago. So I think it'll be a good match. If you want to watch these matches with me, you can come join me on this channel. I will be live for both the first semifinal and the second semifinal right here on this YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, come join us over on the Volleyball Source Discord, the best online volleyball community in the world. And I'll see you soon, bitches.